Welcome to our deep dive. We're going deep into AI today with articles, research, even a YouTube video.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah, get ready for some serious aha moments. Like, did you know the first Roomba was way back in 2002? I had no idea. We're talking early 2000s, and these little robot vacuums were already using AI.
It's amazing how it's evolved since then, from those early robots to now systems diagnosing diseases, composing music, even writing code.
Right, and that's what I think is so cool. Like, we've got all these sources painting this picture of AI, but there are some big themes popping up.
Yeah, like what actually makes AI different from just regular programming?
And then all the different kinds of AI, from like narrow AI to general AI to even like super AI.
And the ways it's already changing things, like in finance, robotics, you name it.
Exactly. So I guess to really kick things off, maybe you could help us with this. What is the difference between AI and traditional programming?
So think about it this way. With traditional programming, you're giving the computer a super specific set of rules.
Like a recipe, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like a recipe. Every single step, every ingredient, everything has to be spelled out.
But with AI, it's more like you give it a bunch of recipes and it figures out the pattern.
Right. It learns from the data. It's not just following instructions. It's finding patterns, relationships, things we might miss.
And that's where all that talk about data being so important comes in, right?
Exactly. Data is like the fuel for AI. The algorithms use it to learn, adapt, make decisions.
This brings up a question for me, though, and maybe you've thought about this too. How do we know how AI makes its decisions?
Yeah, that's the black box problem.
Especially with those super complicated models like the ones in that YouTube video. It's kind of like trusting magic.
Right. We can see what goes in and what comes out, but the process in between, how it gets there, that can be a mystery.
So in healthcare, for example, or finance, where the stakes are so high,
Yeah.
are we okay with not fully understanding how AI is making choices?
That's a huge debate right now. But, one thing that sets AI apart is that it's constantly learning.
Like it's not static, like
Yeah.
that recipe analogy.
Right. AI systems are always evolving, taking in new data, refining their models.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the types of AI. We hear these terms. Narrow AI, general AI, super AI.
Okay, so think of narrow AI like a specialist. It's really good at one specific task, like a virtual assistant answering your questions.
Or even like those systems that catch credit card fraud.
Exactly. They're analyzing tons of transactions in real time, way faster and more accurately than a human.
It's like having an AI detective on the case.
Right. Now, general AI, that's more like having a jack of all trades. It would have human-like intelligence, able to learn anything.
But that's still pretty theoretical, right?
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. And
Right.
then there's super AI, where AI surpasses human intelligence in everything. That's more sci-fi territory.
Like, are we even ready for that kind of power? It's a mind-blowing concept. But for now, I'm fascinated by the real-world stuff, like robotics.
Yeah, robotics is a great example.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars, robots working in warehouses, all powered by AI.
Like something out of a movie. But it's happening now. And all of this, it might seem like magic, but it's really built on math, right?
Absolutely. Math is the backbone of AI, and we'll get into that more in a bit.
Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah, it really is all built on math. You can't have AI without the math behind it. It's
Sure.
what lets those models learn and make predictions and all that cool stuff.
Right. And the sources we looked at, they mentioned some pretty intense math, like linear algebra, calculus, even probability and statistics. So how does all that fit into AI?
Each one plays a key role. Like, think of linear algebra as the language of neural networks. It's how they represent data and make calculations.
So it's like how those networks communicate.
Yeah, exactly. It's their communication system. And then you've got calculus, which is super important for these algorithms that help AI models learn and get better over time.
It's like fine-tuning an instrument to get the perfect sound.
That's a great way to put it. And speaking of cool math stuff, one of the sources mentioned something pretty mind-blowing, that Google's PageRank algorithm, the one that basically made Google what it is based on some really complex math called eigenvalues and eigenvectors.
Wow. I remember learning about those vaguely, but I never connected them to something like Google.
Right. It's a perfect example of how something that seems super abstract can have a huge impact on our daily lives. Basically, it's like figuring out the importance of different web pages.
So that's how Google knows which results to show us. Crazy. But let's move on a bit. What about natural language processing, or NLP? That seems like one of the areas where AI is really starting to feel, I don't know, almost human.
NLP is definitely a game changer. It's what allows computers to understand and work with human language, whether it's written or spoken.
That's what powers those voice assistants we were talking about, right?
Yeah,
Like Siri and Alexa.
exactly. And they've come a long way. Remember those old voice recognition systems? They were so clunky and frustrating.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Now, with all the advances in deep learning, NLP can do things like analyze text for sentiment, summarize huge documents, even translate languages in real time.
Oh, it's like having a personal AI translator.
Right. And it's not just about understanding language, it's about creating it too. That's where generative AI comes in.
Generative AI. That sounds super interesting. What is that?
Think of it like an AI artist or musician. These systems can create new content like text, images, music, even code by learning from existing data. Have you seen those Dolly images?
I have. They're amazing. It's like you describe what you want and the AI paints it for you.
Exactly. It's blurring the lines between human creativity and machine intelligence. Pretty wild stuff.
So how are all these AI systems actually built? What tools and platforms are people using?
Well, there's a whole ecosystem of programming languages, cloud platforms, and specialized hardware. In terms of programming languages, Python is king in the AI world.
Python. I've heard of that. It's pretty popular, right?
Yeah, it's known for being relatively easy to learn and use. Plus, it has these huge libraries specifically for AI and machine learning.
So if you want to get into AI development, Python is a good place to start.
Definitely. And then there are libraries like TensorFlow and PyTorch, which give developers all these pre-built tools for building and training AI models.
Makes it a bit easier than starting from scratch, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And then there are the cloud platforms like Google Cloud AI, AWS, and Azure. They've become essential for AI because they offer tons of computing power and storage, plus all these pre-built AI services.
So it's like a giant AI playground in the cloud.
Exactly. It's where a lot of the development and deployment happens. And of course, you can't forget about the hardware. AI, especially training those massive neural networks, needs a lot of power. That's where GPUs and TPUs come in.
GPUs, aren't those the things gamers use for their graphics cards?
You got it.
Yeah.
GPUs, or graphics processing units, were designed to handle the complex calculations for video games, but it turns out they're also perfect for AI. They're really good at processing huge amounts of data.
So it's like they stumbled upon a gold mine for AI.
Exactly. And then there are TPUs, or tensor processing units, which are chips specifically designed for AI by Google. Even more powerful and efficient than GPUs for some tasks.
It's amazing how all this hardware and software is constantly evolving to push the limits of AI.
It really is. But building an AI model is one thing. Actually deploying it into a real-world application is a whole other challenge.
Right, like taking it from the lab to the real world.
Exactly. It involves things like validating the model to make sure it works as expected, then deploying it into a production environment, whether that's a website, a mobile app, or even a physical robot.
Sounds complicated.
It can be, for sure. There's data processing, storage, infrastructure setup, hardware configuration, all that fun stuff.
So it's like setting up a whole new home for your AI model.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not a set it and forget it situation either. You need continuous integration, which means constantly training, tuning, and updating the model.
So it's a constant process of improvement, even after it's live.
Right. AI models aren't static. They need to adapt and evolve as they encounter new data and new challenges in the real world.
Now, we've talked a lot about the technical side of AI, but what about the bigger picture? All the societal implications and ethical concerns. Have you been thinking about that stuff too?
Oh, absolutely. As AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, it's crucial to think about its impact on society.
It's a big topic for sure.
It is, and it's one that needs a lot of thoughtful discussion and collaboration between technologists, policymakers, ethicists, and everyone, really.
Well, before we wrap things up, let's take a moment to appreciate how far AI has come. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. From those early days of symbolic reasoning to now, with deep learning and neural networks, it's incredible to see how much progress has been made. One of our sources even mentioned that the first commercially available speech recognition software was released back in 1997.
1997. Wow, that's crazy. Speech recognition is everywhere now, but
Yeah.
back then it was a novelty. It just shows how AI has gone from sci-fi to reality.
Right, and the innovation just keeps going, faster and faster.
So what does the future hold for AI? I mean, it's both exciting and a little scary, right? What are your thoughts?
It's hard to say for sure, but the possibilities are mind-blowing. AI has the potential to revolutionize so many industries, like healthcare, transportation, education, and help us solve some of the biggest problems we face. But we have to be careful, make sure it's developed and used responsibly and ethically.
You're right. We need to make sure it benefits all of humanity.
Absolutely. The future of AI is being shaped right now, and it's up to all of us to steer it in the right direction.
We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, huh? From the basics of AI to all these crazy applications and even the big philosophical questions.
Yeah, it's really clear that AI isn't just some futuristic idea anymore. It's already woven into our lives.
It is sometimes in ways we don't even think about, like those personalized recommendations we get on Spotify or Netflix. That's AI.
Or think about all the systems working behind the scenes to prevent credit card fraud.
Right. AI is quietly doing so much already. And from what our sources say, its influence is only going to grow.
One of them even mentioned that the AI industry is expected to, explode in the next few years, growing at a crazy rate.
Wow, so this is really just the beginning.
It seems that way. But with all this rapid progress, it's important to remember that at the end of the day, AI is about people.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the tech, the algorithms, the data. But we have to remember AI is built by people, trained on data from people,
Mm.
and ultimately used to make decisions that affect people.
Exactly. And that's why ethical considerations, transparency, and accountability are so important.
Mm.
AI should empower us, not diminish us or create more inequality.
Well said. So for anyone listening who's maybe thinking, wow, this is fascinating, I want to learn more, or even, hey, maybe I want a career in AI, where should they start? What resources would you recommend?
There are so many great options. Online platforms like Coursera and edX have a ton of courses on AI, machine learning, all that. You can learn from the best right
Yeah.
from your couch.
Those platforms have really made learning so much more accessible.
They have. And if you're more interested in the ethical side of AI, groups like the Association for the Advancement of Artificial Intelligence or the Partnership on AI have some really insightful stuff.
And of course, there are tons of books, articles, even podcasts like this one.
The key is to stay curious, keep learning, and don't be afraid to ask the tough questions.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we hope we've sparked your curiosity about AI. It's a world full of incredible discoveries, mind-blowing innovations, and thought-provoking challenges.
The future of AI is unfolding right now, and we can all play a part in shaping it. So stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.